questions for Coach Doege. Start with Justin and then Juan.
Are you at a point right now where you have a backup quarterback, and who is that guy? What have you seen out of him?
Yeah, we're gonna roll with Sawyer. He's had a tremendous camp. I think what kind of separated him was the explosive plays. He just had way more explosives than the rest of them. And I'm really proud of him. Especially where he's at in his development, because he's still a young player, he's a redshirt freshman. But he did such a good job of being in the hip of Braden Locke and Noah Fafita last year, and that really gave him an advantage when it comes to like processing the scheme and knowing where to go with the football. Obviously, I knew he was a talented football player. Bringing him here, I really like the eval on him, but you never know when they get here of how fast they're going to process things, and he's picked it up. Faster than a lot of kids I've been around. I think the mobility part gives him another dimension to his game. His ability to throw off platform and create outside the pocket's been, he's made a couple throws this camp that just are like, whoa, that's super impressive, and that's unique to him, and so I'm really excited about him. I have a ton of confidence in him. It's part of the reason why I didn't bring a transfer in, is because I believed in those young guys, and I knew one of them was going to separate himself, and he's tough. That's probably the best thing about Sawyer Anderson is he's one of the toughest kids I've ever been around. When it comes, you can coach him hard. He'll accept the coach and he'll apply it. He never gets too down. He never gets too up. He battles through injuries. I mean, this kid is tough, and that's exactly what you want in a quarterback. So I'm excited about his growth, and I'm excited about him being in that spot, because I have a lot of confidence if we had to play with Sawyer Anderson, that we'd be in a good spot and we could win Big 12 football games. So I'm excited about him. He's had a tremendous camp. I'm really proud of him, and that's the direction we're going to go for right now.
Juan and Jason.
What improvements have you seen from your young wide receivers like RJ and Caleb since the start of training camp?
Them just getting familiar with what we do. I think both of those guys have tremendous skill sets. I mean, just talking about Jet, Caleb. He's very, very fast. He's very smooth. And Bobby's eval, coming out of high school was like, he's a little guy, but he's a little guy with tremendous ball skills. So he's got tremendous body control. He can turn 180 and still spin with the ball, catch it clean, and stay on his feet. He's got natural feel for space. Obviously, he's really fast. And the other thing is he just tracks the ball extremely well. That's why, obviously he's going to have an opportunity to be a returner for us as a freshman. It's just because he can. He's fearless and he catches the football. That's you guys heard me talk about when it comes to slot receivers. To me, they got to be tough, and they have to have some fearlessness about them, and going across the middle and digging out linebackers that are bigger than them, and knowing that you're going to get hit at times on crossing routes and things of that nature. The Jet never shies away, so he's progressing well, and you never saw him really hit a freshman wall. He just kind of pushed through all that stuff. So that told me he's a little bit tougher than most at his age. And then RJ, you saw it in the summer. Sometimes like he would just go and make these incredible catches, but you just didn't know if he knew what he was doing yet. And it was just almost like if the ball was up, he was coming down with it. And now that he's gotten comfortable with the scheme a little bit, knowing like, okay, what's my split? Is it -2? Is it +2? Is it divider? Is it on the hash? Like, what if we're stacked? We're not stacked? Like, all that other stuff that he's having to try to kind of battle through his mind right now and get the signal really fast. Even though I just ran a go route, I got to come back and get a signal and line up fast. All that's starting to slow down for him, so you're starting to see him play a little bit more consistent. But his ability to go get a 50-50 ball is unmatched. I mean, that's obviously been proven through camp. He's still got some growth left, for us to really count on him as an everyday receiver. He reminds me a little bit of Mizell last year, where Mizell made some really big time plays in camp, but there's still some inconsistencies there for him to be a starter for us and play meaningful time. Now he'll play for us. It's going to be up to him on how much.
Jason and then David.
Compared to the offense last year, how expanded is it this year in terms of how much more you were able to put in your second year?
I think, our baseline stuff is still there. We're allowed to get in and out of things a little bit quicker just because of Noah's mastery of it. We can call 2 plays and he can see identify what we're looking for and go after one or the other. A lot of lot of motions. You know, obviously there's some sets that we're doing that are a little bit different from last year, not to give up too much, you know, in the media, but, you know, it's expanded. I wouldn't say it's expanded too much, but it's definitely expanded, and we're allowed to, and the reason it expanded is because of Noah. Noah's allowing us to do a lot of different things because of his ability to process and get us in and out quickly, you know, so obviously we won't get, you know, we don't have a bunch of penalties sitting there trying to figure out what we're going to run. What is he going to check to? What is he going to, you know, get in and out of? You know, obviously Noah's just special in that way, and so we're allowed to do a lot of creative things, but we also have stuff that we do really well that we're going to hang our hats on, you know, and go attack that way too. So, you know, I'm excited to kind of showcase, you know, some of the stuff that we've been practicing that nobody's seen yet, and but I'm also excited to watch those guys play really fast on some stuff that we're really good at as well.
David and then Damien.
Realistically, Seth, how many of these receivers do you think will play this year?
Yeah, it's tough to say. You know, I think we have, 8 or 9 right now that you feel really confident that they can go in there and execute. Like if they're on the field, you're like, you don't blink an eye. Obviously there's there's Sticks, there's Spivey, and there's Gio that will roll out there first, you know, like those are the guys. But then Mizell comes in quickly, you know, and then Rod comes in quickly. B. Phelps, you know, plays a significant role. And then, you know, how does RJ continue to develop? How much do you put him in there? And then obviously the Jet, you know, the Jet gives you a dynamic that, you know, some of those others don't in this slot. So there's you know, obviously we got a healthy group there. You know, if they all stay healthy, that's going to be a challenge to make sure they all have somewhat of an opportunity to help us. But at the same time, you know, what gives us the best chance to win that day? And what does that rotation look like? I think that's week by week. You know, what we're trying to attack, how the scheme is, all that kind of stuff. But I do like that group, and Bobby does such a good job of managing it. You know, you guys heard me talk about it. I think Bobby's one of the best in the country, not just because he's really good at teaching the fundamentals and the receiver play, but he does such a good job of creating trust amongst that group, because you do have a significant number of receivers that all want the ball and they all want to be the guy. He's just created a real culture in that room where it's like team first, and that's hard to do sometimes when you got a bunch of world-class athletes that want the football. And so
For a large time in this program, before you guys got here, we saw a lot of passing outside the hashes. Last year it seemed like we saw more passing inside the hashes. What allows your scheme to be successful in that?
yeah, I mean, I feel like we can do either or. You know, I think it comes down to what are they trying to defend? Are they giving up they giving up that part of the field, outside of the part of the field, or are they going to let you have some space in between? I do think we run some option routes and some choice routes over the middle that give us a chance, and we got really good at them. And so a lot of crossers that have some option routes to them that give us a chance through the middle, so it's just not dead, versus specific coverages. You know, our guys, and then we have smart slots. Like Gio's really, really smart. He can make decisions very quickly. If you don't have that, Rod's really smart. He can make decisions really quickly. If you don't have that, and you want to run all those deep choices across the middle, crossing routes that have options across the middle, and the decisions are made too late, well, you're sacked. You know, and so that gives us a chance. And then obviously some of our quick game stuff that we're manipulating, depending on scheme, you know, it allows us to get the ball over the middle quickly, and puts the ball in play, which I really like. You know, I want to put the ball in play and let those dudes go make their money. So.
Damien in the back, and then Nathaniel.
Seth, you touched on it a second ago, but given Noah's command of the playbook, how does that same playbook get altered if Sawyer's called into action?
The greatest thing about Sawyer is I don't feel like I have to alter it that much. You know, obviously, you know, I'm going to do, if he's in the game, I'm going to call plays that Sawyer's good at. And so that might alter like the way I call the game. But we go into a game, he's going to know the same game plan as Noah, and because he can handle it. Now, does he have it as mastered as Noah does? Not yet. You know, and that's where I got to be really specific on how I call it, but he'll know it, and because he's extremely smart and he works really hard at it. Like that's one thing that he does just as well as, you know, not as well, but I mean Noah's elite at prepping. But Sawyer works extremely hard, probably harder than most of the backup quarterbacks or redshirt freshman quarterbacks in the country. Like that dude is here all the time. And if Noah's in the film room, Sawyer's in the film room with him. And so the ability to process as much of what we're doing with Noah, he's able to handle. If he gets in the game, does that, the way I call it change? Maybe a little bit, just depending on, there might be a few calls in there that I don't know if he's ready for. We want to specifically do it for Noah because of the expansion of what we're doing. But I'm very confident that he can handle a lot and go execute anything that we call.
Nathaniel and Mike.
Yeah, just curious on your thoughts on the left side of the offensive line. I know Rhino gets a lot of praise for his versatility and his ability to kind of play anywhere there, along with Lotto, from experience improving from last year to now.
Those two guys?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Obviously, ton of confidence in both of them. Rhino, we've really challenged Rhino to use his hands in a specific way that will give him a little bit more at the point of attack and pass pro. But I thought he's done a great job of kind of developing, just the processing part, because we have a ton of calls up front. Oglesby has a very complex system, but when you get it, when you understand it, and you can play fast in it, it gives you all the tools that you need to block any movement, any front, any pressures. I mean, we got a ton of answers there. And I think, moving, like when Rhino was coming back from surgery last year and being implemented back into it, it's just one of those things, like everybody just thinks, and coaches included, we get to this world where it's like, oh, we're going to get this kid back, but he hasn't practiced. Well, he had the meetings and he had those walkthroughs, but he didn't practice. He hadn't seen this type of speed and this type of violent intent in a long time. And that's different. And I know it's like easy to say, well, he's back, he's healthy. Well, he hasn't practiced. So he's not going to be playing at extreme high level because he hasn't seen or felt that type of speed in a long time. Well, I just thought, like last year, it took him a minute to kind of get back in the rhythm, and then obviously getting his confidence back, where going through spring, summer, and now in fall camp, you just kind of see him really start to progress in like some of the stuff that we've challenged him. And then Lotto the same way. Lotto last fall camp, if you asked me, are we going to play Lotto at tackle, I would have been like, we're in trouble, because I didn't think he was ready. And then about midway through the season, he had to play because out of necessity, and he went in there and competed, and he did a great job, and that really sparked some confidence in him because he's long, he's big. It took him a minute to get into true shape on how we want to play, but he's gotten really strong over the summer. I think that was a big point of emphasis, and he's worked on his flexibility to play out on the edge. And so I'm really proud of kind of his development, and I have a lot of confidence in Lotto. He's arguably, might be our best tackle on the team right now, him and T. Bounds. So I'm excited about his progress and where he's going. Like, I think Lotto has a really, really bright future.
Michael and then Justin.
2 questions. The first one, on average, how many plays do you go into a game with?
Well, there was a study. I did a study over the off season, and I talked to Dirk Cutter a little bit about it, because Dirk was my OC in Atlanta, the one year I spent in Atlanta, and he was like, the time I spent with him, I was just so impressed. Like, he's just like one of those people, like you're just around for a little bit of your life, but he had such an impact on me, even as a player. And so I've always thought he was really, really, really good at what he does. And so I'm just kind of reaching out to people on some stuff that I can get better at in the off season. And one thing was just kind of like his efficiency on game planning and his efficiency on his call sheet, and coming up with a specific number on like how many plays you carry on certain situations. And so, looking back at like my call sheet from last year, and like how many plays were actually called versus how many we script or how many we carried, how many we got to actually practice, like normal down calls all the way to 3rd and long, 3rd and medium, 3rd and short, high red, low red, goal line, get back on track extreme, 2 minute, like all that stuff. And we came up with, obviously this would take a long time to really get into like the nitty gritty, but the truth is like I want to cut down on that. I think I carried way too much, especially on normal control downs, 1st and 2nd on track calls. You're carrying, somewhere between, I want to say I averaged somewhere between maybe 60 to 70 calls on that call sheet, when we called maybe 45 to 48, and then, so you think about that, and as a play caller on that call sheet, you're thinking, well, I want to have enough. And then you also go into a game thinking, well, what if they do something different? You have some calls there that you can adjust to. The issue with that is, how do you practice them all, right? And so carrying less is going to allow us to practice a little bit more versus different looks. Like obviously you're practicing each play versus the top call they have, then their second top call, and then there might be an issue call. Okay, we call this play, there's a pressure that's going to give us an issue. What's the answer? So we're teaching that to the quarterback or whatever. But sometimes you get to it, if you're carrying too much, you might just get to walk through that. And then you want to go out there and call it in real speed and wonder why it doesn't work because you walked through it one time. You know what I mean? And so that's just kind of my mindset now, is just trying to get those plays that we're going to carry repped as much as possible. And then I still think you can adjust. You know, you get, you know, like for instance, in the NAU game, like I have an idea what this guy's going to do, but I don't know. He's never been a coordinator before. You know what I mean? I know his background. And I know, like, you know, I've talked to a lot of people that think, you know, have an idea of like what he believes in. But that doesn't mean he has the same personnel that he did at Montana State that he does at NAU. I don't know his personnel, you know, so I don't know if we're going to come down and make, you know, obviously he's been a 4-down guy. He's been around 4-down people. He might come down and play 3-down just because that's what they have personnel-wise. Luckily, we got a chance to watch it game 1, but that's where it's like, okay, I still think we have enough base scheme, enough rules built to where we don't have to carry as many plays. We can adjust on the fly and be able to make those calls, and our guys still execute without having to overload them during the week with a bunch of calls you're not gonna call.
The second question is, in your internal discussions with your fellow coaches about who's going to do what, personnel deployment, et cetera, what impact has the 5-for-5 change had on that, where you no longer have to, you know, worry about cutting a guy off at 4 games?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's like Jet and RJ, for instance, you know, if they give us some value, then, you know, you continue to push that. You know, that's really it. You know, those young guys, like if they are able to play at this level, it's just so hard. You know, you want to think just because they were just highly recruited kids and they have the ability to come play. Yes, from a skill level, there's no doubt, but there's a mentality part to it. There's a learning part to it. There's a speed part to it. There's all this stuff that you have to really gotta to create in their process. And it's just, I just haven't seen a whole lot of young guys play at a really high level before. You know, obviously you have your exceptions, and I do think Jet will play for us. But at that point, you know, in our personnel discussions, there is no limitations now. You know, who the best player plays.
Justin and Jason.
Well, speaking of 5-for-5, you spent Lottie back. How's he looked in the time that he's been with the team?
Yeah, he's been awesome. I mean, you know, obviously I love having him here, and I knew, I think I said this when, you know, it first came out, but the team loves Marty. Our guys love Marty. The running back room loves Marty. The coaches love Marty. The O-linemen love Marty. Noah loves Marty. So just having Marty around has been value for us. And you know, obviously I can't predict the future, nor can I get into what's really going on with the appeals and the court rulings. But I love having him here, and he's having a great time, and he looks really good. So, you know, hopefully it all works out for him.
And his old running backs coach, Alonzo Carter, they have a week 0 game. What was it like working with Zoe in the last year, and what do you think about this week and this new opportunity for him?
Yeah, I'm super excited for Zoe. You know, I think back when I first interviewed here, I had a coach that coached with me, put me in contact with him. You know, I got here late. They put me in the graduate, and this coach told me to call Coach Carter. And so I call him, and I'm like, "Hey man, can you give me the answers to the test? Because I really want this thing to happen." And he did. He really you know, put like I like to say, put me on game, and really helped me through that process. And then ever since I showed up, he just always had my back. And you know, obviously he does a tremendous job with the relationship with the kids, but he also does a great job of keeping the glue within the staff. And so he was just really beneficial for me that first year, just because I was the new guy trying to implement a system, trying to implement a culture. I'm pretty intense. I demand a lot. I have a high standard. I coach the kids hard, and he had my back the entire way. So I'm forever grateful for Coach Carter, and I wish him nothing but the best. I know he's going to have a lot of success.
The last two will be Jason and David.
Brett told us that Noah has a crazy note-taking process. What can you tell us or give us insight about what that looks like from him?
Well, so his notes, I mean, he obviously used to write them. Now he has an iPad that he types everything on. It's color coordinated, it's extremely organized, and he usually rewrites them, right? So for instance, I'll give you an example. In fall camp, especially late, maybe a night meeting, you finish the tape. Okay, maybe we go through a cut-up that I've made about a certain coverage or a certain look, or maybe you run out of cut-ups. And so we're sitting there and maybe a story happens. So you're telling a story to the group, and it gets kind of quiet there because you're kind of like listening or whatever to a guy. But the whole time the story's going on, I just hear this typing behind me. And it's either him, and he's not taking notes on the story. You know, he's either just rewriting his notes or he's reorganizing his notes, and they're incredible. And anytime I talk to an NFL scout, I'm like, guys, I don't know how you got to do it. Maybe I need to do it, but let's go print out just one page, just so you can see how organized and how detailed these notes are. Because if I say something, it's getting written down, right? It could be something that I resaid from a day one install. He's still going to retype it. So like the cool thing about Noah, one of the things that I think that really separates him is this, it's almost like this beginner's mindset every day. So no matter what we're meeting about, whether it's install one or it's a game plan prep for NAU, the notes are being taken as if he's never heard them before. And then like I said, he may have all these notes and we're going fast, so they're not organized. So the time that he has, okay, there's 5 minutes. I let him out 5 minutes early. He knows he has 5 minutes. Well, he'll stay there for 5 minutes and try to reorganize everything and retype them, right? And it's incredible. And you should see, like I was talking to Coach Carroll about it, on his lifting card. He'll turn on his lifting card, and there'll be notes everywhere on his lifting card about what band he used, the weight he used, if it was a little bit different than what he did. I mean, the guy is just so detailed. And now it just makes total sense. And even Tanner talked to the team. Tanner McLaughlin talked to the team after today's workout, and actually gave a shout out to Noah. And I know a lot of people, like, we're always talking about Noah, but he gave a shout out to Noah, and he told the team, like, this dude he wasn't just like this now. He's been like this since he was a freshman. And so his process has almost delivered him to where we're actually talking about him every time somebody takes the stage and talks about Arizona football, you know. And it's incredible. It's elite. I've never seen anybody do it like that. I wish I took notes like that. I think I'd be a better coordinator. But this dude, it's funny because Noah challenges me to be better. You know, sometimes you're around really good players and you're like, man, that guy was really fun to coach. And Noah's extremely fun to coach. And I'm extremely grateful to be part of his journey, but I'm learning just as much from him than he's learning from me. Like, he's making me better too, because it's a constant challenge for me to be my very best for him, because he's given me his very best. I mean, it's just incredible. So I love that kid, and I love that he's our quarterback.
We'll finish up with David.
Coach, Gio Richardson appears to be having a really good camp. What has stood out to you about what he's done in at least 17 days?
Hey, I'm not surprised with Gio. Even last year when he started coming on, I would always make comments to Bobby in the headset of, like, this kid's gonna be different. He's gonna catch 80 to 90 balls for us, just because he's fast. He's really tough. He's got great route running ability. He's got great feels for space. He's extremely intelligent. And I mean, all of those, like I said, like, those are like exactly what I want in a slot. And so he's just crushing it, man. He's kind of like he's like the receiver version of Noah when it comes to processing. Like, we can draw up a pretty significant, complex thought and go out there and Gio is, without even repping it, gonna execute it. Where a lot of guys, like, I was a rep guy, you know, when I played, I needed those reps before I could go really truly execute a play. And most people are like that. Most kids are. They need those reps, where Gio is just one of those guys you can plug in, and majority of the time he's going to go execute it exactly the way you wanted it. And so I'm really pleased with his development. I think he's going to have an unbelievable year. He's completely bought into what we're doing. You know, it's funny. I'll give you this. It's probably a little bit vulnerable of me, but he called me out today. Okay, he held me accountable. because we had a 2-minute. We're down there. We're about to, we throw like a little corner route to Rod to get like on the 10-yard line. It's going to be easy chip shot. We're down 2. That was the situation. We drop the ball. We have to kick it. So sometimes, you know, as a frustration OC, you say, man, if we got to catch that. If we catch that, game over for sure, you know. And Gio comes to me after practice and says, Coach, we know. I said, what do you mean you know? He says, we know we need to catch the ball. Just like you know you need to call a play. We don't ever say, call a play, Coach. So we don't need you to hear you say, catch the ball. And I was like, you're damn right. You're damn right. And so own it, fix it, because he's spot on. And he didn't do it maliciously. He didn't do it, you know, Gio is kind of a prick now. And I love that about him. He is. But that makes Gio. But like we have such a tight relationship. Our coaches and our kids, we have that type of relationship. We can have communication like that. And he can come up and say, hey, he can tell me that. Knowing that that's going to hit. And it hit. And so own it, fix it. You know, I don't think I never need to say anything out like that again, because I know those kids are playing hard. I know they want to catch the ball. You know, and if they hear me say something like that, that doesn't do any good, you know. Just like a bunch of people telling me to call a play, that doesn't do me any good. I know I got to call a play, you know. And so he's a special talent, a special kid, and I'm really excited about Gio and what he's going to do this year.
Thank you, everybody.